When asked about the best horror films of all time, the answers to be obtained are very diverse. Even though there are various answers, The Exorcist will probably be the most mentioned answer, and a classic that will always be remembered. The film, which is based on the novel of the same title by William Peter Biote, has earned tremendous financial benefits, with revenues of over $440 million, with a budget of only $10 million, where these results place The Exorcist as one of the highest-grossing films of all time.
I think we've got a guest.
You're gonna die up there.
The idea of writing the book The Exorcist was inspired by a true story that happened in 1949, where the main subject was a 12-year-old girl who was possessed by a spirit, and was handled by two priests. This story begins when Father Merrin, played by Max Von Sydow, excavates ancient artifacts in the Nineveh area, Iraq. During the excavation, he managed to find ancient statues of the demon Pazuzu, from Babylonian mythology, the form of a demon he had previously defeated. Meanwhile, in Gorgetown, a famous actress named Chris Macneil, played by Ellen Burstyn, must face the fact that her only daughter, Regan, played by Linda Blair, experiences strange events that cannot be explained with reason. But her condition just got worse. She often cursed with dirty words, and had convulsions in her bed.
My bed was shaking. I can't get to sleep.
These events began when Regan slept in her mother's room. Regan complained about wanting to sleep with her mother, because her bed kept rocking while she was sleeping. Chris Macneil began to notice significant changes in the behavior of her only daughter. Regan, who had been cheerful and kind-hearted, suddenly showed unusual physical symptoms.
Are you comfortable, Regan?
Yes.
Initially, Regan was thought to have suffered from psychological problems due to her parents' divorce. So even Regan's mother, Chris Macneil, took her child to the doctor. Doctors initially diagnosed that Regan was neurological. However, her mother denied this, because Regan showed more that her psychology was disturbed, one of which was to say harsh and dirty words. Attempts to bring Regan to the doctor were fruitless because, from the various tests performed, there was no disturbance in her physical condition. On the other hand, she began to do various extreme acts that threatened her and those around her. One day, Chris's co-worker Bert Dennings, played by Jack McGowan, was found dead while he was with Regan when he was entrusted to look after Regan when Chris left the house. Denial died from jumping out of the window, but it didn't seem out of place because Denning had a history of drinking.
Haven't heard. Burke's dead.
After the incident, Lieutenant William F. Kinderman, played by Lee J. Cobb, also tried to investigate the case. He often asked Chris questions, and also advised Chris to consult with the young pastor and psychiatrist, Damien Carras, played by Jason Miller. Regan's face and her voice changed, her strength doubling, as if another creature had possessed her. It was in that state that Carras began to realize that there was an evil force residing in Regan's body, and he recommended psychiatric treatment for her. Chris begs to help her get an exorcism, and she says that the girl on the bed upstairs isn't her daughter. Carras visits Regan again, and records their conversation, in which he splashes Regan with water. She told her it was holy water, and she began writhing in pain, seemingly in a trance and speaking in a strange language. Carras reluctantly agrees to try and get an exorcism for Regan, although he seems to have more in common with the doctors who recommended her as a form of shock therapy.
How long are you planning to stay in Regan?
The church called Father Merrin to perform an exorcism, with the help of Carras. Merrin has performed exorcisms in the past, including difficult ones, which nearly killed him. When Merrin arrived at Macneil's house, Regan called his name from above, as if she knew him, and she made a strange animal sound. Pastor Merrin warns Carras about talking to the devil, and reminds him that the devil will mix lies with truth to confuse and attack them.
Especially important is the warning to avoid conversations with the demon.
When they entered Regan's room, she immediately started off with a series of profanity. Merrin and Kara's recite an exorcism ritual, and Regan manifests bizarre phenomena such as levitation, telekinesis, abnormally long tongue, and strange vomiting. She constantly cursed the priests and gave off evil laughter and verbal abuse. Regan started talking to Kara's in her mother's voice, and she started to despair.
God in heaven, come. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth.
Merrin told Chris to leave the room. When he returned, he found Merrin dead on the floor of a heart attack. Regan chuckled cheerfully and angered him. Kara's caught her and shouted at the demon to enter his body and take him away. The transfer took effect immediately, and Kara's began to change and Regan returned to her normal self. Before Kara's can harm her, his normal personality breaks through for a split second and he commits suicide, throwing himself out the window in Regan's room. Just as Burke did, he fell down the stairs outside Regan's window and lay dying on the street below. Coincidentally, Pastor Dyer appears at the scene and arranges a final ceremony for his friend.
Er gehört himself and warum du bist bekannt du.
In this brief epilogue, we see Chris and Regan as they prepare to leave their home in Gorgetown. They were visited by Pastor Dyer. Chris spoke to him privately and told him about Regan didn't remember anything about possession or exorcism. Regan then appeared and greeted him cheerfully, glued to Father Dyer's white collar. Before they left, she suddenly hugged Pastor Dyer and kissed him. As Chris left in their car, she ordered the driver to stop for a moment and give Pastor Dyer the religious medal belonging to Father Karras. In their struggle, Regan had taken it from his body and it had been in her bedroom all this time. The Exorcist ends with a very good ending. This film does present a battle conflict between good versus evil that has been raised hundreds of times in horror films, including those with the devil's theme, but the end of the film allows us to contemplate something. In this case, human strength on God's side will indeed be stronger against Satan's interference, but it takes more than that. It takes really strong faith and trust to do it. The Exorcist deserves to be called one of the best horror films of all time. The combination of qualified technical aspects, quality scripts, charming acting, especially Linda Blair, and of course not forgetting her prowess in giving terror, including psychologically to the audience.